Welcome to this lecture, Kubernetes Cluster Architecture. Agenda, I will talk about high-level architecture of Kubernetes, explain the components, master node, worker node components, add-ons, and Kubectl. Kubernetes has the master and worker node concept. The master worker concept is not new to us. I did use SiteMinder for single sign-on. We had a SiteMinder server. Then we deployed SiteMinder agents into every machine that we needed to configure the single sign-on. Agents communicated to the SiteMinder server to get the necessary information to enable single sign-on. If you use the WebLogic server, admin managed server is a very good example for master and worker concept. The admin server holds all the configuration. Managed servers simply host the application. In case of the unavailability of admin server, managed servers will still run on independence mode. If you want to make the configuration change, you have to bring up the admin server to make the configuration change. You can apply the same concept for Kubernetes master and worker node here. Look at the diagram. The heart of the Kubernetes is Kube API server. Every communication to the Kubernetes environment goes through the Kube API server. It exposes the Kubernetes API. Kube scheduler, it deploys the application to a worker node. Before it deploys, it detects the resource requirement such as CPU, memory, and other constraints to assign those applications to the respective worker node. Kubectl, it manages the cluster to the desired state. It handles node failure, replicating components, and maintaining the correct amount of pods. etcd is the brain of Kubernetes environment. It stores the complete cluster configuration in its key value pair database system. So whenever you type commands at Kubectl, like Kubectl get pods, get nodes, or any command, it goes to API server. From the API server, it goes to etcd. etcd accepts communication from only one component in Kubernetes, that is the API server. Cloud controller. It is specific to the cloud. If you deploy Kubernetes in AWS, you have the ready-made API to connect to the cloud, same for Azure and GCP. Now, we saw all major components of master node. Let's see what we have in the worker node. The first one is Kubelet. Kubelet is an agent that runs on every worker node. It runs and manages the Kubernetes objects such as pod. Kubelet also communicates to the container runtime to pull images from the container registry. When a pod spec goes to Kubelet, Kubelet tells the container runtime, hey, I want to create a pod. For that pod, I need an image. Go and pull it. Then the container runtime listens to Kubelet and goes to the container registry and pick up the specific image to be deployed. Proxy. Proxy is a proxying service in every worker node. It is to load balance traffic that is destined for services through cluster IP and node port to the correct backend pods. So when the service tries to communicate with the pod, Proxy plays a bigger role by associating itself with IP tables. Container runtime, Kubernetes by default it has CRI-O. A lot of companies still use Docker, and you can use Docker too. The container runtime simply pull whatever operations you do with container, you can do using container runtime. So as a revision, Kube API server, heart of the Kubernetes system. etcd is the brain of Kubernetes. It stores the complete cluster configuration. Kubescheduler schedule pods in various worker nodes. Kubecontroller helps you to maintain the integrity of the Kubernetes system. Cloud controller connect to the specific cloud using standard cloud API. Kubectl talks to Kube API server to get information from etcd. Kubernetes supports add-ons. DNS. Core DNS is a prime concept. We have a separate section in this course for core DNS. I will explain about core DNS in the upcoming lecture. You can also add web UI. This dashboard gives information about Kubernetes clusters graphically. Container resource monitoring, it is another add-on. If you ever want to run Kubectl top or connect to Prometheus, you need to have container resource monitoring add-on to be deployed. Cluster level logging, it is to save container logs to a central log store with search and browsing interface. Kubectl is a command line interface tool for managing Kubernetes clusters. Using the Kubectl, you can operate the whole Kubernetes cluster, deploy manage applications, automating Kubernetes operations. You can also build higher level frameworks using Kubectl command line interface.